The surgeon's hands were shaking when he pressed the envelope into mine. That's what I remember most. Not the sterile smell of the hospital, not the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, not even my own heartbeat thundering in my ears. Just his hands, trembling like leaves in a storm. "Mrs. Ellis," he whispered, his eyes darting down the corridor like he expected someone to jump out at any moment. "You need to take your grandchildren and leave the city. Tonight. Don't tell anyone where you're going." I stared at him, my mouth opening and closing like a fish drowning in air. My son was somewhere behind those double doors, cut open on an operating table, and this man, this stranger in scrubs splattered with what I prayed wasn't Nathaniel's blood, was telling me to run? "I don't understand," I managed to croak out. "My son, what about my son? What happened to him?" The surgeon glanced over his shoulder again, then stepped closer. Too close. I could smell coffee on his breath, see the exhaustion carved into the lines around his eyes. "Your daughter-in-law did something terrible," he said, and the way he said it made ice crawl up my spine. He shoved the envelope harder against my chest. "Everything you need to know is in here. But you need to move fast. For those children's sake, Mrs. Ellis. Do you understand me?" I didn't understand. Not then. Not when I stood there in that hallway, clutching that envelope like it might explode in my hands. Not when I walked on legs that felt like water back to my car. Not when I sat in the driver's seat, staring at that sealed white rectangle under the parking lot lights. What could possibly be inside that would make a surgeon, a man who'd just operated on my son, tell me to flee like a criminal? "My name is Margaret Ellis, and 6 months ago, I thought I knew what betrayal looked like. I thought I'd seen it in my daughter-in-law's cold eyes, in her calculated smiles, in the way she slowly poisoned my relationship with my son. But I was wrong. What I'd seen before was just the shadow of something much darker. Something that would make me question everything I thought I knew about the woman my son married. Something that would make me understand why that surgeon's hands were shaking." Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. Warm welcome to the family. Enjoy the story. I didn't open the envelope right away. Maybe I was afraid. Maybe some part of me knew that once I saw what was inside, there would be no going back. No pretending. No hoping I'd misunderstood. So I drove home in silence, that envelope sitting on the passenger seat like a bomb with a ticking clock I couldn't hear. My house was dark when I pulled into the driveway. It's a small place, nothing fancy, just a 2-bedroom cottage with a garden I've tended for 30 years and a porch where my late husband used to sit and watch the sunset. Simple. Honest. The kind of home built on hard work and love, not credit cards and lies. I thought about Celeste's house, the one she'd convinced my son to buy even though they couldn't afford it. 4 bedrooms, marble countertops, a chandelier in the entryway that cost more than my first car. She'd given me a tour once, her heels clicking on the hardwood floors, her voice dripping with false modesty. "It's not much but it's home," she'd said, while I stood there in my Walmart jeans feeling like a relic from another century. That should have been my first real warning. Not the only warning, there had been plenty before, but the first one I couldn't explain away with excuses about different generations or modern expectations. Because there's a difference between wanting nice things and needing everyone to know you have them. Between building a home and building a showcase. Between love and possession. Celeste didn't love my son. I knew that now, sitting in my dark kitchen with that envelope in front of me. Maybe I'd always known it, deep down in that place mothers know things they're too afraid to say out loud. I made myself a cup of tea first. Chamomile, because my hands were shaking almost as bad as that surgeon's had been, and I needed something to calm the storm building in my chest. The kettle whistled, shrill and urgent, and I thought about all the times I'd made tea in this kitchen. After my husband died. After Nathaniel's first heartbreak in high school. After the midnight phone calls when he'd whisper that he didn't know if he could make it through medical school. I'd always had answers before. Always known what to say, what to do. But sitting there at my scratched wooden table, staring at that envelope, I felt like a child again. Lost. Afraid. Small. The envelope wasn't sealed properly. The flap had been tucked in, not licked, like whoever put it together had done it in a hurry. Or didn't want their DNA on it. That thought made my stomach turn. Inside were photographs. At first, I didn't understand what I was looking at, just images that seemed random, disconnected. A bank statement. A prescription bottle. A text message screenshot. But as I laid them out on the table, my brain started connecting I never wanted to connect. The bank statement showed withdrawals. Large ones. $50,000 over the past 6 months, pulled from the joint account Nathaniel shared with Celeste. Money he didn't know was missing because he was too busy saving lives to check balances. Money that should have been going toward their mortgage, their children's future, their life together. Where had it gone? The prescription bottle answered that question, but in a way that made my blood run cold. It was Nathaniel's name on the label. His doctor. His prescription. But the medication wasn't something he'd ever mentioned taking. Wasn't something he needed. And according to the pharmacy records also included in the envelope, he'd been getting refills every month for a year. Except Nathaniel wasn't taking these pills. Someone else was picking them up. The signature on the pharmacy receipts was Celeste's. I recognized her dramatic, looping handwriting, the way she dotted her eyes with little circles like a teenage girl. The text messages were the final piece. Screenshots between Celeste and a number I didn't recognize. The messages were coded, careful, but their meaning bled through like poison seeping through cloth. He's getting suspicious. Need to move faster. The insurance policy is worth $2 million if it looks like natural causes. The medication should do it. No one will question a young doctor having a heart attack from stress. My teacup crashed to the floor. I sat there, surrounded by shattered porcelain and spreading chamomile, staring at those words until they blurred. Until my brain could process what my eyes were seeing. Until the truth settled into my bones like winter frost. My daughter-in-law was trying to kill my son. And tonight, he'd collapsed. Tonight, he'd gone into emergency surgery. Tonight, a surgeon who'd seen something, found something, had risked his career to warn me. To give me this evidence. To tell me to run with my grandchildren before Celeste realized her plan had been exposed. How long had this been going on? How many mornings had my son woken up feeling tired, weak, his heart racing for no reason he could explain? How many times had Celeste handed him his vitamins with a loving smile, watching him swallow poison while she calculated how much longer until she could cash in? And the children. Clara, who was 7, with my son's gentle eyes and her mother's dark hair. Henry, just 5, who still believed monsters only lived in closets and under beds. What would happen to them if Nathaniel died? Would they go to her, to a woman who'd murdered their father for money? Would they grow up learning that love was just another transaction, that people were just obstacles to overcome on the way to getting what you want? I thought about calling the police. Picking up my phone right then and there, dialing 911, letting them handle it. But something stopped me. Maybe it was the way that surgeon had looked at me, desperate, frightened, like he knew something I didn't. Maybe it was 30 years of watching the world teach me that the system doesn't always protect the innocent. That sometimes, the guilty know how to work the system better than the good people do. Or maybe it was something darker. Something that whispered in the back of my mind that Celeste deserved more than a fair trial and a comfortable prison. That justice wasn't always about lawyers and courtrooms and following the rules. That sometimes, the quiet way was the right way. I cleaned up the broken teacup, sweeping the pieces into my dustpan with mechanical precision. Then I gathered all the photographs, all the evidence, and put them back in the envelope. I tucked it into my purse, the same worn leather purse I'd carried for 15 years, the one Celeste had once wrinkled her nose at during Christmas dinner. Then I went upstairs and packed a bag. Not everything. Just enough for a few days. Clothes, toiletries, the pearls my husband gave me on our 20th anniversary. And the loaded revolver he taught me to shoot before he died, the one I'd kept in my nightstand drawer for emergencies I never thought would come. Because I was going to do what that surgeon told me to do. I was going to get my grandchildren. I was going to leave the city. But not because I was running away. I was getting them somewhere safe. And then I was coming back. Coming back for Celeste. The question wasn't whether she deserved what was coming. The question was whether I could live with myself after I gave it to her. Whether becoming the kind of person who could plan revenge, who could plot in the shadows, who could smile and nod while laying traps, whether that made me just as bad as her. But as I stood in my bedroom, holding that gun in my hands, feeling its weight, its certainty, I realized something. Celeste had made a mistake. She'd assumed that because I was old, because I was quiet, because I wore Walmart jeans and drank chamomile tea, that I was weak. She'd forgotten that I'd survived things she couldn't imagine. That I'd buried a husband, raised a son alone, fought through poverty and grief and doubt. That underneath my grandmother's smile and my modest clothes was something she'd never had and never would steal. I clicked the safety on the revolver and placed it carefully in my bag. Then I looked at myself in the mirror, really looked, maybe for the first time in years. Saw not just the gray hair and the wrinkles and the tired eyes, but the woman beneath. The woman who'd fought for everything she had. The woman who wouldn't let her son die and her grandchildren suffer because some calculating witch thought human lives were just numbers on a balance sheet. Celeste wanted to play games with my family? Fine. But she'd made one critical error in judgment. She'd started a war with a mother. And mothers don't lose when their children's lives are on the line. I grabbed my bag, turned off the lights, and headed for my car. The envelope sat heavy in my purse, evidence of attempted murder that would hold up in any court. But courts took time. Trials took months. Appeals took years. My son might not have months. And I wasn't willing to bet his life on a justice system that moved like molasses while killers walked free on bail. So I would do this my way. Quietly. Carefully. With the same patience I'd used to raise a child, tend a garden, build a life from nothing. Celeste had tried to poison my son slowly, bit by bit, pill by pill. She'd smiled and played the devoted wife while she calculated his death. She'd kissed my grandchildren goodnight while planning to make them orphans. Now it was my turn to be patient. My turn to smile. My turn to plan. But first, I had to get those children. Had to keep them safe from whatever storm was about to break. Because once I started down this road, once I made my first move, there would be no stopping until one of us was destroyed. The drive to their house took 20 minutes, but it felt like hours. Every red light, every stop sign, every slow driver made me want to scream. What if Celeste had already figured out that Nathaniel's collapse wasn't going according to plan? What if she was at the hospital right now, playing the devastated wife, while doctors who didn't know any better saved her victim's life and ruined her payday? What if she was already thinking about Plan B, and Plan B involved those children? Their house was lit up like Christmas, every window glowing. I could see shadows moving inside, probably the babysitter Celeste always hired when she wanted to play the concerned wife at the hospital. A college girl named Madison who thought Celeste was such an amazing mom and so dedicated to her husband's career. Madison didn't know she was babysitting for a murderer. I parked down the street, out of sight of the doorbell camera Celeste had insisted they needed. For security, she'd said. But I knew better now. She documented everything. Controlled everything. Watched everything. Because that's what manipulators do. They build their cages so carefully that you don't realize you're trapped until it's too late. My phone buzzed. A text from a number I didn't recognize. Just 3 words, she knows. Hurry. My heart stopped. The surgeon. It had to be. Somehow Celeste had found out. Maybe she'd seen him pull me aside. Maybe she'd asked the wrong questions and gotten suspicious. Maybe. I didn't finish the thought. I was already running toward the house, my old knees screaming in protest, my lungs burning, my purse with its envelope and its gun bouncing against my hip. I didn't care about being careful anymore. Didn't care about cameras or witnesses or making a scene. Those were my grandchildren in there. And if Celeste knew her plan had been exposed, if she was cornered desperate, willing to kill her own husband, what would she do to silence 2 children who might someday ask uncomfortable questions? I reached the front door and pounded on it, my fist hitting the wood so hard I felt the impact shoot up my arm. Madison. Open up. It's Margaret. Nothing. Just music playing inside, some pop song with a thumping beat that made it hard to hear anything else. I pounded again, harder, and finally heard footsteps. The door opened, and Madison stood there with her phone in one hand and a confused smile on her face. Oh, Mrs. Ellis. I didn't know you were. I pushed past her, my eyes scanning the living room, the kitchen, the stairs leading to the second floor where the children's bedrooms were. Where are Clara and Henry? They're upstairs getting ready for bed. Is everything okay? Mrs. Delacroix said she'd be back in a couple hours and... We need to leave. Now. Where's their overnight bag? Madison's smile faltered. What? Mrs. Ellis, I don't understand. Mrs. Delacroix didn't say anything about Madison. I grabbed her shoulders, looked her dead in the eyes. My son is in emergency surgery. Something terrible has happened. I need to take the children to stay with me until we know he's okay. Do you understand? She nodded slowly, her face pale. Oh my God. Of course. I'll get them. But before she could move, I heard it. A car door slamming outside. Footsteps on the walkway. Fast, purposeful footsteps that I recognized even though every cell in my body wished I didn't. The doorknob turned, and Celeste walked in. She looked perfect, like always. Not a hair out of place, her makeup flawless despite the late hour, her designer coat draped elegantly over her shoulders. But her eyes, those cold, calculating eyes, were different now. They were sharp, alert, dangerous. Margaret, she said, her voice honey-sweet poison. What a surprise. Madison, thank you for letting her in. You can go now. I'll handle things from here. Madison looked between us, confused but obedient. She grabbed her backpack and headed for the door, throwing me one last uncertain glance before disappearing into the night. And then it was just me and Celeste, standing in the gleaming entryway of the house my son's money had bought, the house that was supposed to be a home but had become a trap. She smiled at me. That same smile she'd given me 100 times before. Pleasant. Polite. Empty. You should be at the hospital with Nathaniel, she said. I'm sure he'd want his mother there when he wakes up. If he wakes up. If. That one word confirmed everything. She knew I knew. And she didn't care anymore about pretending. I'm taking the children, I said quietly. Celeste's smile widened, but there was nothing human in it. No, she said softly. You're not. What happens when a grandmother faces down a killer to save her family? When the only thing standing between children and disaster is one old woman with a terrible secret and nothing left to lose. Celeste's hand moved toward her phone, and I knew exactly what she was planning. One call. That's all it would take. Police showing up, concerned daughter-in-law reporting a confused old woman trying to kidnap her children. Who would they believe? The elegant young mother in her designer coat, or the grandmother in Walmart jeans clutching a purse that probably looked suspicious now that I thought about it? Don't, I said, and something in my voice made her pause. Maybe she heard it too, that edge I didn't know I had. That tone that said I wasn't the same woman who'd smiled politely at her insults for the past 7 years. She tilted her head, studying me like I was a puzzle she couldn't quite solve. You found something, she said. Not a question. A statement. That meddling surgeon. I knew I should have insisted on a different hospital. My blood went cold. She was admitting it. Right here, right now, with her children sleeping upstairs and her husband fighting for his life in an operating room. No tears. No panic. No pretense of being the devastated wife. Just cold calculation about which hospital would have been more convenient for murder. How long? I asked. My voice sounded strange in my own ears, distant, like it belonged to someone else. How long have you been poisoning him? Celeste laughed. Actually laughed. It was a sound like glass breaking, sharp and wrong in the perfect silence of her perfect house. Poisoning is such an ugly word, Margaret. I prefer to think of it as helping nature along. Your son works too hard. All that stress. Anyone could see a heart attack coming. Upstairs, I heard a toilet flush. Then small footsteps padding across a hallway. One of the children was awake. Clara probably, she'd always been a light sleeper, just like her father. My heart hammered against my ribs. I needed to get them out of here. Needed to move. But Celeste stood between me and the stairs, and her hand was still hovering near her phone. He trusted you, I said, and I hated how my voice cracked on that last word. He loved you. Gave you everything. Everything. Celeste's eyes flashed, and for the first time, I saw real emotion there. Rage. Pure burning rage that she'd kept hidden under all those practiced smiles. He gave me a 4-bedroom house in a mediocre neighborhood and a life where I have to clip coupons like some common housewife. Do you know what my friends have? Vacation homes in Aspen. Private jets. Husbands who understand that money is power, and power is everything. So you decided to kill him for the insurance money. She shrugged, like we were discussing the weather. $2 million. More than enough to start over somewhere better. The children will adjust. They're young. They'll barely remember him in a few years. Something inside me snapped. Maybe it was the casual way she talked about erasing my son from his own children's memories. Maybe it was thinking about Clara and Henry growing up believing their mother loved them when she was capable of this. Maybe it was just 30 years of biting my tongue, swallowing my opinions, being the good mother-in-law who never caused trouble. I took a step forward. You're not touching those children. Celeste's smile vanished. This is my house, Margaret. They are my children. And you are a delusional old woman who's about to be escorted off my property by the police. Her finger moved toward her phone screen. I don't remember deciding to do it. Don't remember the thought process or the moment of choice. I just remember my hand diving into my purse, closing around cold metal, pulling out the revolver my husband had taught me to shoot 40 years ago. The gun came up, pointed at her chest. My hand wasn't shaking anymore. Celeste froze, her eyes widening. For the first time since I'd met her, I saw genuine fear on her face. You wouldn't dare. Try me. My voice was steady now. Calm. Like some other Margaret had taken over, a Margaret who'd been hiding inside me all along, waiting for the moment when polite society and careful words weren't enough. Put the phone down. On the counter. Slowly. She did. Her movements were careful, controlled, but I could see her mind working behind those cold eyes. Calculating odds. Planning her next move. She was a predator, and predators didn't give up just because their prey finally grew teeth. Grandma. My heart stopped. Clara stood at the top of the stairs in her princess pajamas, rubbing her eyes, her dark hair tangled from sleep. She looked so small. So innocent. So completely unaware that her mother was a monster and her grandmother was pointing a gun at her. Hey, sweetheart, I said, trying to keep my voice light even though my world was falling apart. Go wake up your brother and pack your overnight bags. You're going to have a sleepover at my house tonight. Clara's sleepy eyes moved between me and Celeste, sensing the tension even if she couldn't understand it. But Mommy's home now. I know, baby. But your daddy is sick, and I need you and Henry with me. Can you be a big girl and help your brother pack? She nodded slowly, then disappeared back down the hallway. I heard her small voice calling for Henry, heard drawers opening. My grandchildren, packing to escape their own mother while I held a gun on the woman who'd given birth to them. What had I become? This is kidnapping, Celeste said softly. Even if you make it out of here, even if you run, they'll find you. And when they do, those children will be taken from you permanently. Is that what you want? She was right. I knew she was right. You can't just take children at gunpoint and expect the law to be on your side, no matter what evidence you have in your purse. But what choice did I have? Leave them here with her? Trust the system to move fast enough to save them? I have proof, I said. The surgeon gave me everything. Bank statements. Prescription records. Text messages. It's all in my purse. Celeste's expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. Calculation. Proof that will take weeks to verify. Months to build a case. And in the meantime, tragic accidents happen. Houses catch fire. Brakes fail. Children sometimes wander too close to swimming pools. She was threatening them. Her own children. Using them as leverage because she knew that was the one weapon I couldn't fight. My hand tightened on the gun, and I saw her notice. Saw her smile. You won't shoot me, she said confidently. Not in front of them. You're too good for that. Too moral. Too. The gunshot was deafening in the perfect silence of her perfect house. The bullet punched through the drywall 6 inches from her head, and plaster dust exploded in a white cloud. Celeste screamed, stumbling backward, her hands flying up to protect her face. Upstairs, Clara started crying. Henry's voice joined hers, confused and frightened. The sound of my grandchildren's terror cut through me like a knife, but I couldn't stop now. Couldn't hesitate. Because Celeste was right about one thing, I was running out of time. That was a warning, I said, my ears ringing from the blast. The next one goes through your kneecap. Then the other one. And I'll keep shooting until you can't walk, can't run, can't chase us. Do you understand me? Celeste stared at me, and I saw her recalculate. Saw her realize that she'd pushed the wrong person too far. That maybe, just maybe, the quiet grandmother wasn't so harmless after all. Now sit down on that couch and don't move. Don't call anyone. Don't do anything except think about how you're going to explain attempted murder to a jury of 12 people who actually work for a living. She sat. Her hands were shaking now, her perfect composure finally cracking. But her eyes, those cold, calculating eyes, were still watching. Still planning. I backed toward the stairs, the gun never leaving her. Clara. Henry. Come down here right now, please. They appeared at the top of the stairs, both of them clutching their backpacks, both of their faces streaked with tears. They looked so scared. So confused. And I knew that no matter how this ended, this moment would stay with them forever. The night Grandma pointed a gun at Mommy. The night their family shattered into pieces that could never be put back together. It's okay, I lied, because what else could I say? Everything's okay. We're just going to my house for a little while. Your mommy and I had a disagreement, that's all. Clara was 7. Old enough to know that grown-ups didn't have disagreements that involved guns and bullet holes in walls. But she took Henry's hand and started down the stairs anyway, because children are resilient like that. Because they trust their grandparents to keep them safe, even when the world stops making sense. They reached the bottom, and I herded them toward the door, keeping my body between them and Celeste. My daughter-in-law hadn't moved from the couch, but I could see her mind spinning. She wasn't done. This was just a setback. A temporary loss in a longer game. This isn't over, she said quietly. You think you've won because you have a gun and some papers? I have lawyers, Margaret. I have money. I have friends in places you can't even imagine. And when this is done, when the dust settles, I will make sure you never see those children again. I stopped at the door, one hand on Clara's shoulder, the other still gripping the revolver. I should have just left. Should have taken my grandchildren and run. But something made me turn back, made me look at the woman who'd tried to murder my son. You made a mistake, I said. You thought I was weak because I was kind. You thought I was powerless because I was quiet. But you forgot something important. What's that? She asked, her voice dripping with contempt. I buried a husband, raised a son alone, and survived more loss than you've ever known in your privileged life. And I did it all without becoming a monster. I pulled my grandchildren closer. You wanted a war? You've got one. But don't expect me to fight fair. Because when you threaten my family, I stop being a grandmother and start being something you really don't want to meet in a dark alley. I didn't wait for her response. I opened the door and ushered Clara and Henry into the night, into my car, into whatever uncertain future waited for us. Behind me, I heard Celeste's voice, sharp and venomous. Run all you want, Margaret. It won't save him. He's already dying, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. Her words followed us into the darkness, wrapping around my heart like barbed wire. Because she was right. Even if I'd exposed her, even if I'd saved my grandchildren, Nathaniel was still full of whatever poison she'd been feeding him. Still fighting for his life in a hospital where no one knew to look for toxins in his system. I'd won this battle. But the war? That was just beginning. And the clock was ticking. I drove like my life depended on it, because 3 lives actually did. Clara and Henry sat in the back seat, buckled in, silent except for their occasional sniffles. I could see them in the rearview mirror, their small faces pale in the passing streetlights, trying to understand a world that had just stopped making sense. Grandma. Clara's voice was so small. Why did you bring your gun? My hands tightened on the steering wheel. What do you tell a 7-year-old? How do you explain that her mother is a murderer without destroying every sense of security she's ever known? Sometimes grown-ups have to protect the people they love, I said carefully. Even when it's scary. Even when it doesn't make sense. Is Daddy going to die? The question hit me like a physical blow. I had to swallow twice before I could answer. Your daddy is strong. The doctors are taking good care of him. But we need to be somewhere safe while he gets better. Can you be brave for me? Both of you. Henry, who hadn't spoken since we left the house, suddenly piped up. Is Mommy mad at us? God. What had Celeste done to these children? What kind of environment had they been living in where they assumed they were somehow to blame for adult problems? No, sweetheart. Mommy's not mad at you. This has nothing to do with you or Clara. This is grown-up stuff, okay? You two are the best kids in the whole world. But even as I said it, my mind was racing. Where could we go? Not my house, that was the first place Celeste would look. Not a hotel, too easy to track with credit cards. I needed somewhere off the grid. Somewhere she wouldn't think to search. My phone buzzed. Unknown number again. My heart jumped into my throat as I pulled over into a gas station parking lot to read it. Nathaniel stabilized. Surgery successful. But toxins still in system. Need complete med history and any substances he was taking. Police asking questions. Wife playing devastated. You need to stay hidden. The surgeon. Still risking his career to help us. I typed back quickly, have evidence. Bank statements, prescriptions, texts. How do I get it to you without involving police yet? 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Finally, don't trust cops. Wife has connections. Meet me tomorrow, 7 a.m. Old diner on Route 9, outside city limits. Come alone. I stared at that last part. Come alone. But I couldn't leave Clara and Henry anywhere. Couldn't trust anyone to watch them. What if Celeste had already called in favors? What if there were people looking for us right now? A tap on my window made me jump so hard I nearly dropped the phone. An elderly man stood there, concerned wrinkles creasing his weathered face. I lowered the window an inch. You okay, ma'am? Saw you pull in fast. Car trouble. For a second, I considered telling him everything. Spilling the whole insane story to this stranger at a gas station at midnight. But I swallowed it down. Just needed to check directions. We're fine, thank you. He glanced at the back seat, at Clara and Henry's tear-stained faces, and I saw doubt flicker in his eyes. He knew something was wrong. Question was, would he call the police? Report a suspicious grandmother with frightened children? You take care now, he said slowly. Drive safe. He walked away, but I saw him pull out his phone as he headed toward his truck. My chest constricted. We needed to move. Now. I pulled back onto the highway, my mind scrambling for options. Then it hit me. Ruth. My friend Ruth, who'd retired to a cabin 2 hours north, who barely used her cell phone and didn't trust computers. Who'd been my best friend since we were young mothers pushing strollers through the same park. If I could get to Ruth, we'd have a safe place to hide until morning. Until I could meet that surgeon and figure out how to save my son without getting my grandchildren taken away by a system that wouldn't understand why I'd done what I did. The drive felt endless. Clara fell asleep first, her head lolling against the window. Henry tried to stay awake, but eventually his eyes drooped shut too. I was grateful. Sleep was a mercy when your world was falling apart. I thought about Nathaniel lying in that hospital bed. Stabilized, the surgeon had said, but the toxin was still in his system. How much damage had Celeste already done? Would he have permanent heart damage? Brain damage from whatever combination of drugs she'd been feeding him? And how had I missed it? All those times he'd looked tired, said he wasn't feeling well, complained about chest pains he attributed to stress. I'd told him to rest more. Drink more water. Take vitamins. Never once did I imagine his wife was slowly killing him. What kind of mother doesn't see her own son being poisoned? But I knew the answer. The kind of mother who trusted the wrong person. Who believed that love conquered all, that marriage vows meant something, that no one could be evil enough to murder the father of their children for money. I'd been naive. Stupid. And my son had paid the price. My phone rang, startling me so badly I swerved. The number was blocked. My thumb hovered over the decline button, but something made me answer. Margaret. Celeste's voice was silk over steel. We need to talk like reasonable adults. I have nothing to say to you. Really? Not even about the warrant that's about to be issued for your arrest? Kidnapping, assault with a deadly weapon, breaking and entering. Shall I continue? My blood ran cold. I have evidence against you. Text messages about killing Nathaniel. Bank statements showing you stealing $50,000. Prescription records. Evidence that will take months to verify in court. Meanwhile, you'll be in jail, and I'll have my children back. Is that what you want? I gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles went white. She was right. In a legal battle, she had the advantage. Time, money, lawyers who could tie up the evidence in red tape while she painted herself as the victim. What do you want? I asked through gritted teeth. It's simple. Bring the children back. Give me the evidence. And I'll forget this ever happened. You can visit Nathaniel in the hospital, comfort him, play the supportive mother. And we all move forward with our lives. You mean you keep poisoning him until he dies? A pause. Then, your son is weak, Margaret. He always has been. Too soft. Too emotional. Too willing to sacrifice for others when he should be fighting for himself. Do you really think he'll survive in this world? Do you think he'll ever give those children the life they deserve? He's your husband. I exploded. The father of your children. How can you? He's a means to an end. And the end is $2 million and a fresh start somewhere that actually matters. You can either accept that and salvage what's left of your relationship with your grandchildren, or you can fight me and lose everything. I looked in the rearview mirror at Clara and Henry, sleeping peacefully, innocent, unaware that their mother was a monster negotiating their futures like business transactions. I'll die before I give them back to you, I said quietly. Celeste laughed. That same glass-breaking sound I'd heard earlier. Then you'll die. Because I always get what I want, Margaret. Always. And you're just an old woman with a gun and a hero complex. This won't end well for you. The line went dead. My hands were shaking again. Not from fear, from rage. Pure, burning rage at this woman who thought she could threaten my family and walk away unscathed. Who thought money and lawyers and cold calculation were enough to beat a grandmother who'd already lost too much. She wanted a fight? Fine. But she was about to learn that the most dangerous person in the world isn't the one with the most money or the best lawyers. It's the one with nothing left to lose. Ruth's cabin appeared through the trees like salvation. Lights off, just the way I'd hoped. I pulled into the gravel driveway and killed the engine, then sat there for a moment, trying to gather myself before I woke the children. A flashlight beam hit my face, and I nearly screamed. Ruth stood on her porch in a bathrobe, holding a shotgun that looked older than both of us combined. Margaret. She lowered the gun. What in the name of? I need your help, I said, climbing out of the car. And I need you not to ask questions until the kids are asleep. Ruth looked at my face, then at the back seat where Clara and Henry were stirring. She'd known me for 40 years. She could read me like a book. And what she read now made her face go pale. Inside, she said. Quick. An hour later, the children were tucked into Ruth's guest room, finally sleeping soundly in clean beds with quilts Ruth's grandmother had made. I sat at her kitchen table with a mug of coffee I didn't want and a story I didn't know how to tell. But I told it anyway. All of it. The envelope, the evidence, the gun, Celeste's threats. Ruth listened without interrupting, her weathered hands wrapped around her own coffee mug, her face grave. When I finished, she was quiet for a long time. Then, you shot at her. I shot near her. Warning shot. You brought a gun into her home and threatened her in front of her children. Our grandchildren. And yes, I did. Because she was planning to murder my son and I needed to get them somewhere safe. Ruth sighed. Lord, Margaret. This is a mess. I know. No, I don't think you do. She leaned forward. Even if you're right about everything, even if she's guilty as sin, you just gave her exactly what she needs to paint you as the villain. Unstable grandmother, waving guns around, kidnapping children. How's that going to look in court? My stomach dropped. Because I knew she was right. I'd been so focused on protecting Clara and Henry, so consumed with rage at Celeste, that I hadn't thought about how my actions would be interpreted by people who didn't have all the facts. So what do? I asked quietly. You get ahead of this. Fast. Before she controls the narrative. Ruth pulled out her phone. My nephew is a lawyer. Criminal defense. He's good, and more importantly, he owes me favors. I'll call him in the morning, get you representation before the police come knocking. The surgeon wants to meet me at 7. Says not to trust the cops. That Celeste has connections. Ruth's eyebrows shot up. This surgeon. You trust him? Did I? I'd known him for all of 5 minutes before he shoved an envelope in my hands and told me to run. But he'd saved my son's life. Had risked his career to warn me. That had to count for something. I don't have a choice, I said. He's the only one who knows what toxins to look for in Nathaniel's system. Without him, doctors might discharge Nathaniel before he's really safe, and Celeste will just. I couldn't finish that sentence. Couldn't say out loud what we both knew. That if Nathaniel went home to Celeste, he wouldn't survive the week. All right. Ruth stood up. You meet this surgeon. I'll stay with the kids. But Margaret, you need to be smart about this. No more guns. No more confrontations. You get the medical evidence, you get a lawyer, and you let the system work. The system moves too slow. Then you make it move faster. You push, you demand, you call every reporter and every judge and every damn person you can find. But you do it legally, or you lose those children forever. Do you understand me? I wanted to argue. Wanted to tell her that playing by the rules wasn't enough when you were fighting someone who'd thrown the rulebook out the window. But I could see the fear in her eyes. Fear for me, for Clara and Henry, for how badly this could all go wrong. Okay, I said finally. Okay. I'll be smart about it. But even as I said it, even as Ruth squeezed my hand and told me it would work out, I knew the truth. Being smart wasn't going to be enough. Following the rules wasn't going to save my son. Because Celeste didn't play by rules. She played to win. And if I wanted to beat her, if I wanted to protect my family, I was going to have to learn to play her game. Even if it destroyed me in the process. Dawn came too fast and not fast enough. I spent the hours before sunrise sitting at Ruth's kitchen window, watching darkness fade to gray, my father's revolver on the table beside me. Not because I planned to use it, but because holding it made me feel less powerless. Ruth found me there at 6, already dressed, her coffee pot gurgling in the quiet. You didn't sleep. Couldn't. I'd tried. Lay down in Ruth's spare bedroom for an hour, listening to Clara and Henry breathing in the next room, but every time I closed my eyes I saw Celeste smile. Heard her voice promising to take everything from me. The kids are still out. I'll make them pancakes when they wake up. Keep things normal. Ruth poured 2 mugs, slid one across to me. You remember what I said. Get the evidence, get out, come straight back. I nodded, tucking the revolver back in my purse. Ruth's eyes followed the movement, but she didn't comment. We both knew that Normal had left the building somewhere around the time I'd fired a warning shot through my daughter-in-law's wall. The drive to the diner took 40 minutes. Route 9 was one of those forgotten highways that progress had passed by, all cracked asphalt and empty fields and buildings that had been abandoned when the interstate opened up 20 miles east. The diner sat alone at a crossroads, its neon sign flickering weakly in the morning light. Only 2 cars in the parking lot. One was a beat-up Honda that had seen better days. The other was a black Mercedes that definitely didn't belong here. My stomach clenched. That Mercedes meant money. Meant someone who didn't eat at roadside diners unless they were meeting someone they didn't want to be seen with. I sat in my car for a moment, watching. The windows were tinted too dark to see inside. Could be the surgeon. Could be Celeste's lawyer. Could be anyone. My phone buzzed. Inside. Back booth. Hurry. I grabbed my purse, heavy with the envelope and the gun, and headed for the door. A bell chimed as I entered. The diner smelled like burnt coffee and bacon grease. A waitress who looked like she'd worked here since the Nixon administration glanced up from wiping down the counter, then went back to her work without interest. The surgeon sat in the last booth, still wearing his scrubs under a jacket. He looked like he'd aged 10 years since last night. Dark circles under his eyes, hands wrapped around a coffee mug like it was the only thing keeping him upright. Across from him sat a woman I didn't recognize. Late 40s, power suit, expensive haircut. She was the Mercedes, no question. Mrs. Ellis. The surgeon gestured to the seat beside him. This is Detective Marissa Chun. She's with State Police, Major Crimes. My heart stopped. You said not to trust the police. I said don't trust local cops. Celeste's father plays golf with the county sheriff. But Detective Chun is different. She's been investigating your daughter-in-law for 6 months. The detective slid a badge across the table. It looked real, but what did I know about badges? Sit down, Mrs. Ellis. We have a lot to discuss and not much time. I sat, but kept my purse close. Kept my hand near the gun. 6 months? What are you investigating her for? Insurance fraud. Your son is the third husband Celeste Delacroix has been married to. The detective pulled out a file, opened it to show photographs. 3 men. All roughly the same age, same build, same look, successful, trusting, slightly naive. Husband number 1 died in a car accident 5 years ago. Brake failure. She collected $500,000. Husband number 2 died of a sudden heart attack 3 years ago. $1.2 million. Both deaths were ruled accidental. But when we looked closer at the pattern, she didn't need to finish. I was looking at the photographs, seeing my son's face superimposed over these strangers. Nathaniel was supposed to be number 3. $2 million. The biggest payday yet. She's a serial killer. My voice sounded hollow. We believe so, yes. But belief isn't proof. We've been building a case, following the money, tracking her movements. But she's careful. Very careful. Every death looks natural. Every insurance claim is legitimate on paper. We needed something concrete. Something that would hold up in court. The surgeon leaned forward. When your son came in last night, I recognized the symptoms. I'd been briefed on the previous cases. The toxicology profile matched. But by the time I confirmed it, Celeste was already at the hospital, playing the devastated wife, controlling the narrative. So you gave me the evidence. I pulled out the envelope, slid it across the table. Text messages. Bank statements. Prescription fraud. Detective Chen opened it, studied the contents. Her face remained neutral, but I saw something flicker in her eyes. Where did you get this? Does it matter? It does if we want it to be admissible in court. If it was obtained illegally. A concerned medical professional compiled evidence of a crime and gave it to a family member. That's not illegal. The surgeon and I locked eyes. We both knew he could lose his license for this. Could face charges of his own for breaching patient confidentiality. But he'd done it anyway. Because sometimes doing the right thing means breaking the rules. Detective Chen was quiet for a long moment, studying the documents. This is good. Really good. Combined with what we already have, this might be enough to arrest her. But there's a problem. Of course there was. What problem? You. The detective looked at me directly. You took your grandchildren at gunpoint. You fired a weapon in a residential area. You fled with minors who have a legal guardian. Celeste filed a police report 3 hours ago. There's an active warrant for your arrest. The walls of the diner seem to close in. So what are you saying? I turn myself in and she gets away with attempted murder. I'm saying we need to move carefully. If we arrest you now, Celeste gets custody of those children back. And if we arrest her without ironclad evidence, her lawyers will have her out on bail within hours. Either way, your grandchildren end up back with a woman who's killed before. Then what's the solution? My hands were shaking again. I pressed them flat against the table. The surgeon spoke up. We need more time. Time to do a complete toxicology screen on Nathaniel. Time to trace every prescription, every bank withdrawal, every piece of the puzzle. But time is the one thing we don't have. The DA is already getting pressure to drop the investigation. Pressure from who? Celeste's family has connections. Old money. The kind that buys influence. They've already got 3 lawyers working on discrediting our case before we even file charges. I thought about the Mercedes outside. About power suits and expensive haircuts. About the difference between justice and what people with money could buy. So I'm supposed to just give up? Hand over my grandchildren to a serial killer because her daddy has better lawyers? No. Detective Chen's voice was firm. You're supposed to trust us to do our job. But you need to stay out of sight. Keep those kids somewhere safe. Give us 72 hours to build an airtight case. And if Celeste finds us first? The detective and the surgeon exchanged a look. Then you protect yourself and those children by any means necessary, Chen said carefully. And I didn't say that. Officially, I'm telling you to turn yourself in immediately." But her eyes said something different. Her eyes said she understood. That she knew what I was up against. That sometimes the law couldn't move fast enough to save innocent lives. 72 hours, I repeated. That's all I can promise. After that, the warrant goes out wide. Every cop in the state will be looking for you. And I won't be able to protect you anymore. I stood up, grabbed my purse. My son. Is he really stable? The surgeon nodded. We've started treatment to flush the toxins. It'll take time, but he should make a full recovery. We're keeping him sedated for now, told Celeste it's medically necessary, but really it's to keep her away from him. She'll try something. The minute you discharge him. We won't. We're listing him as critical. Immediate family only, supervised visits. She's not getting near him without witnesses. Small comfort. But it was something. My son would live. At least for now. Mrs. Ellis? The detective's voice stopped me at the door. The gun. You need to leave it with me. No. If you're found with a weapon. I said no. I met her eyes. I'm a grandmother protecting 2 children from a serial killer. If she comes for us, I'm not facing her empty-handed. You want the gun, you'll have to arrest me for it. Detective Chen studied me for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. 72 hours. Don't make me regret this. I left the diner, climbed back into my car, and sat there shaking. 72 hours to hide. To keep Clara and Henry safe. To trust that the system would finally move fast enough to stop a woman who'd killed 2 men and nearly succeeded with a third. 3 days. That's all I had to outrun a serial killer with unlimited resources and a vendetta against me. The Mercedes pulled out of the parking lot first, heading east. The surgeon's Honda went west. I waited 10 minutes, making sure no one was following, then started my car. My phone rang. Ruth. Margaret. Turn on the news. I pulled up a news app on my phone, and my heart sank. There I was. My driver's license photo plastered across the screen under a breaking news banner, grandmother wanted for kidnapping after violent confrontation with daughter-in-law. Celeste had given an interview. She sat in her perfect house looking like the perfect victim, tears streaming down her perfect face as she begged for her children's return. I don't know what happened to my mother-in-law, she said, voice breaking at all the right moments. She's always been unstable, but I never thought she'd do something like this. My husband is fighting for his life, and now my babies are missing. Please, if anyone sees them, call the police immediately. Unstable. Missing. Fighting for his life. Every word carefully chosen to paint me as the villain and her as the grieving wife and mother. I wanted to scream. Wanted to drive straight back to that house and show everyone what a real villain looked like. But that's exactly what she wanted. She was baiting me. Trying to make me. Retry. Continue. Edit. React, to do something stupid that would prove her narrative. I took a deep breath and called Ruth back. Did the kids see it? No. They're outside feeding the chickens. But Margaret, this is bad. Your face is everywhere. Someone's going to recognize you. I know. I'm coming back now. We need to move to a different location. Where? If they've got your photo on every news station. I don't know yet. But we can't stay at your place. If they trace my phone records, your cabin will be one of the first places they check. I hung up and started driving, my mind racing through options. Every motel would have seen the news. Every gas station attendant would be looking for a grandmother with 2 kids. How do you hide in plain sight when your face is on every screen in the state? Then it hit me. The one place Celeste would never think to look. The one person she'd written off as irrelevant years ago. My sister. We hadn't spoken in 5 years. Not since the fight at Thanksgiving when she told me I was too soft on Nathaniel, that I needed to let him make his own mistakes. She'd never liked Celeste, had warned me from the beginning that something was off about her. And I'd defended my daughter-in-law. Chosen peace over truth. God, I'd been so stupid. But Linda lived 3 states away on a horse farm in the middle of nowhere. No social media. Barely any internet. She'd taken herself off the grid after her divorce, said she was done with the modern world and its complications. If anyone could hide us, it was her. I pulled over at a rest stop and used the payphone. Did they still work? Apparently yes, though it took 5 tries to remember how to use one. The phone rang 4 times before a gruff voice answered. Yeah. Linda. It's Margaret. Silence. Then, well, this is a surprise. I need help. Big help. The kind where you don't ask questions and you definitely don't call the police. Another pause. I could practically hear her thinking, weighing whether to hang up or hear me out. I saw the news. Figured you'd done something spectacularly stupid. It's not what they're saying. My daughter-in-law, she tried to kill Nathaniel. She's a serial killer, Linda. I have proof. But I took the kids and now there's a warrant and I need somewhere to hide for 72 hours while the police build their case. Jesus, Margaret. I know it sounds insane. But I swear to you, every word is true. And if I don't protect Clara and Henry, they go back to a woman who's murdered 2 other husbands. The longest silence yet. Then, you still at that same phone number? No. I'm on a payphone at, I checked the sign. Riverside Rest Area, mile marker 47. Throw your phone away. Right now. They can track those things. I'll meet you at the Cracker Barrel off exit 63 in 2 hours. Don't talk to anyone. Don't use any cards. Cash only. And Margaret. Yeah. If you're lying to me, if this is some custody drama you've blown out of proportion, I will personally hand you over to the cops. Understood. Understood. The line went dead. I stared at my phone, my lifeline to the world, to news about Nathaniel, to Detective Chen's updates. Then I thought about GPS tracking, about cell tower pings, about all the ways technology could betray you. I dropped it in the trash can. Watched it disappear under someone's McDonald's bag and coffee cups. Felt simultaneously more free and more trapped than I'd ever been. Ruth wasn't happy about the plan. Your sister? The one you haven't talked to in 5 years? The one who told you to mind your own business and let Nathaniel make his own mistakes. She was right. I was throwing clothes into a bag, mine and what little the kids had packed. About all of it. I should have listened. Clara sat on the couch, watching me with those big, serious eyes. Are we running away? How do you explain this to a child? How do you tell a 7-year-old that her mother is a monster and her grandmother is a fugitive and nothing will ever be normal again? We're going on an adventure, I said, forcing brightness into my voice. To see your great-aunt Linda's farm. She has horses. Have I ever told you about the time your daddy fell off a horse when he was 10? Daddy was scared of horses, Clara said quietly. He told me once. And just like that, my heart broke again. Because she was using past tense. Like somewhere in her 7-year-old mind, she'd already started grieving her father. Already accepted that the world where Daddy came home from work and read bedtime stories was gone forever. Your daddy is going to be fine, I said firmly. The doctors are taking good care of him. And when this is all over, you'll see him again. I promise. It was a promise I had no business making. But children need promises. Need to believe that adults have everything under control even when the world is falling apart. Henry tugged on my sleeve. I don't want an adventure. I want to go home. I know, baby. I know. But sometimes we have to be brave even when we're scared. Can you be brave for Grandma? He nodded, but his lip was trembling. 5 years old, and his childhood was already shattered. What would this do to him? To both of them? Growing up knowing their mother had tried to kill their father for insurance money? Ruth walked us to the car, her face tight with worry. You call me when you get there. And Margaret? Whatever you do, don't trust anyone except your sister. Celeste has money, which means she has reach. If she figures out where you are. I know. No, I don't think you do. Ruth grabbed my arm. This woman has killed twice. Successfully. Without getting caught. That takes planning, patience, and a complete lack of conscience. If she thinks you're a threat to her freedom, she won't hesitate to eliminate you. And those children won't stop her. I looked at Clara and Henry, already buckled into the back seat. Already looking smaller, more fragile than they had yesterday. Then I'll make sure she doesn't find us. And if she does? I met Ruth's eyes. Then she'll learn that mothers are just as dangerous as serial killers when you threaten their families. The drive to meet Linda took 90 minutes. Every cop car I saw made my heart jump. Every time another vehicle followed us for more than 2 turns, I started planning escape routes. By the time we pulled into the Cracker Barrel parking lot, my nerves were shot and the kids were getting restless. I'm hungry, Henry whined. We'll eat soon, I promise. Just need to wait for. A truck pulled up beside us. Old Ford F-150, rust spots on the wheel wells, mud caked on the tires. Linda climbed out, looking exactly like I remembered, weathered tough, wearing jeans and boots like armor. She'd always been the strong one. The one who didn't need anyone. The one who survived her divorce and her bankruptcy and her daughter's drug addiction by sheer force of will. She studied me through the window, then knocked. You look like hell. Good to see you too. She glanced at the back seat. Her expression softened slightly. These the kids. Clara and Henry. Clara, Henry, this is your great-aunt Linda. Say hello. Hello, they chorused, polite but uncertain. Linda nodded. Right. Follow me. Stay close. If we get separated, pull over and wait. Don't try to find the farm on your own. GPS won't work out there anyway. We drove for another 40 minutes, leaving the highway for county roads, then dirt roads, then what barely qualified as roads at all. The landscape shifted from suburbs to farmland to genuine wilderness. Trees pressed close on both sides. No houses. No businesses. Nothing but green and silence. Perfect. Linda's farm sat in a valley, invisible from any main road. A small house, a barn that had seen better days, pastures with 3 horses grazing peacefully. It was beautiful in a rough, unpolished way. Like Linda herself. No internet, she said as we pulled up. No cable. Phone's a landline and it's spotty. You want to hide, this is as hidden as it gets. Clara's face fell. No internet? You'll survive, Linda said dryly. Generations of children somehow managed without YouTube. You can read books. Ride horses. Do chores. Welcome to 1985. We got out, and Linda led us inside. The house smelled like wood smoke and coffee. Comfortable. Lived in. Real. Nothing like Celeste's sterile showcase. Guest rooms upstairs. 2 beds. Kids can share. Linda pointed. Bathrooms there. Kitchens through there. You cook, you clean up after yourself. I'm not running a hotel. Thank you, I said quietly. Really. I know this is. Don't. Linda held up a hand. Don't thank me yet. You've got 72 hours, you said. So we've got work to do. Work. She pulled out a laptop, guessed she wasn't completely off-grid, and opened it to a news site. My face stared back at me. The headline had gotten worse. Armed grandmother still at large. Children feared in danger. They're painting you as a lunatic who might hurt those kids, Linda said flatly. We need to change that narrative. Fight back. And we need to do it without getting caught. I stared at her. How? You said you have proof. Evidence that this Celeste woman is a serial killer. So we leak it. Anonymously. To every news outlet, every blogger, every true crime podcast that'll listen. We flood the zone with information until the story becomes about her, not you. The detective said. The detective wants to do things legally, which takes time you don't have. This is the court of public opinion, Margaret. And right now, you're losing. So we changed the game. It was risky. Could compromise the police investigation. Could make things worse. But Linda was right, I was already losing the PR battle. Celeste was a master manipulator. She knew how to play victim, how to tug heartstrings, how to make herself sympathetic. Time to show people who she really was. I made copies, I said. Of the evidence. Multiple copies. Smart. Give them to me. I know people. Journalists who don't ask questions about sources. Within 6 hours, this story will be everywhere. Clara tugged on my sleeve. Grandma? Is Mommy really bad? I knelt down, took both her hands. This was the moment. The moment where I had to choose between protecting her innocence and preparing her for the truth. Your mommy is sick, sweetheart. Sick in a way that makes her do bad things. But that's not your fault, and it's not your brother's fault. You two are perfect. Do you understand? She nodded, but I could see the confusion in her eyes. The beginning of understanding that would haunt her for years to come. That her mother didn't love her the way mothers were supposed to. That she'd been a pawn in a game she was too young to comprehend. Come on, Linda said gently. Let's go meet the horses. They don't care about any of this mess. They just want carrots and sugar cubes. She led Clara and Henry outside, and I heard their voices fade as they walked toward the barn. For a moment, I was alone in the quiet house, and everything crashed down on me at once. My son was in the hospital, poisoned by his own wife. My grandchildren were traumatized and confused. I was a fugitive with a gun in my purse and a warrant for my arrest. And somewhere out there, Celeste was planning her next move. I thought about what Ruth had said. That Celeste wouldn't hesitate to eliminate me. That she'd killed twice and gotten away with it. That she had money and connections and absolutely no conscience. But she'd made one critical mistake. She'd underestimated me. Thought I was just another obstacle to overcome. Another elderly relative to manipulate or sideline. She'd forgotten that I'd survived loss before. That I'd rebuilt my life from nothing after my husband died. That I'd raised a son alone through poverty and doubt and every challenge the world could throw at me. And most importantly, she'd forgotten that the most dangerous thing in the world isn't someone with everything to gain. It's someone with everything to lose. My phone, no wait, I'd thrown that away. I needed to think differently now. No technology. No digital footprints. Just old-fashioned planning and patience. Linda came back inside, her laptop under her arm. Kids are good. They're natural with animals. That's a good sign, means they haven't been broken yet. Yet, I repeated. Yet, she agreed. So let's make sure they never are. Give me those copies. Let's burn this woman's life down before she burns yours. I pulled out the envelope. Bank statements showing Celeste stealing $50,000 from my son. Prescription records showing her forging his name to get medications he didn't need. Text messages to an unknown number plotting his death. Insurance policies with her as the sole beneficiary. And the files Detective Chun had shown me, photos of 2 other husbands who died mysteriously. 2 other men who'd trusted the wrong woman. This is enough, Linda said, studying the documents. More than enough. Question is, are you ready for what happens next? What do you mean? Once this goes public, there's no taking it back. Celeste will know you're fighting back. She'll escalate. Get more dangerous. And the police won't be able to protect you until they've built their case. I know. Do you? Linda's eyes were hard. Because escalation with a serial killer doesn't mean lawyers and PR battles. It means she'll come for you. Personally. And she won't stop until one of you is dead. I thought about the gun in my purse. About how far I'd come from the quiet grandmother who baked cookies and tended her garden. About the line between justice and revenge, and how blurry it was becoming. Then let her come, I said quietly. I'm done running. Done playing defense. If she wants a war, she's got one. But this time, she's not fighting some trusting husband who can't imagine his wife would hurt him. She's fighting a mother who's already lost too much to be afraid of losing more. Linda smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. It was the smile of someone who'd been through hell and come out harder on the other side. There's the sister I remember. All right. Let's do this. She opened her laptop and started typing. I watched over her shoulder as she uploaded files to anonymous servers, drafted emails to journalists, composed posts for true crime forums. Within minutes, evidence of Celeste's crimes was spreading across the internet like wildfire. No going back now. My sister had been right all those years ago. I'd been too soft. Too willing to give Celeste the benefit of the doubt. Too invested in keeping the peace instead of facing ugly truths. But I was done being soft. Done giving benefits of doubt. Done keeping peace with people who deserved war. Celeste wanted to destroy my family? Fine. But she was about to learn that you don't attack a family matriarch and expect to walk away unscathed. The war had begun. And this time, only one of us was walking away alive. The story broke at 11 p.m. I was sitting on Linda's porch, watching the stars, when my sister's voice cut through the darkness. "Margaret, you need to see this." I followed her inside where her laptop screen glowed like a beacon. My hands started shaking before I even read the headline. Mystery serial killer posing as grieving wife? Evidence suggests 3 dead husbands, insurance fraud, and attempted murder. Below it, screenshots of everything. Bank statements, text messages, photos of the previous husbands. And Celeste's face, no longer the perfect victim, but a suspect. A monster in designer clothes. "It's everywhere," Linda said, scrolling through dozens of news sites, blogs, social media posts. Someone on Twitter called her the Black Widow of Charleston. "It's trending. Number 3 nationwide." I should have felt victorious. Should have felt relief that finally, people were seeing the truth. But all I felt was cold. Because I knew what came next. Celeste would see this. Would know I'd leaked it. And she would come for us with everything she had. "How long do we have?" I asked. "Until she figures out where you are?" Hard to say. Could be hours. Could be days. Depends on how good her investigators are. "Her father has money. They'll be good." Linda nodded grimly. "Then we prepare. I've got security cameras around the property. They're old, but they work. Motion sensors on all the approaches. And guns. Lots of guns. The kids are asleep upstairs. And they're going to stay safe. Whatever happens, Margaret, those children don't see any more violence." Understood. I understood. But I also understood that violence was coming whether we wanted it or not. You don't expose a serial killer on national news and expect her to surrender quietly. My sister was right about one thing though. We needed to be ready. The next morning came with a phone call on Linda's landline. She answered, listened for a moment, then handed it to me. "Detective Chun." I grabbed the phone. "Hello? Mrs. Ellis." The detective's voice was tight. "What the hell did you do?" I leveled the playing field. "You compromised my investigation. Evidence leaked to the media before we could build a proper case. Do you have any idea how many defense motions this is going to generate? How many ways Celeste's lawyers can claim tainted jury pool, media bias, prosecutorial misconduct? Will you still arrest her?" A pause. "We have to now. The pressure is too high. But Margaret, listen to me carefully. This makes her more dangerous, not less. She's cornered. Exposed. And cornered animals attack. Let her attack. I'm ready." "You're not hearing me. She's already lawyered up. Posted bail before we even finished processing her. She's out, Margaret. Right now. And she's very, very angry." The blood drained from my face. "You let her out?" Judge set bail at $2 million. Her father posted it within an hour. There was nothing we could do. So a woman who's killed 2 people and tried to kill a third is just walking free? With an ankle monitor and strict orders not to leave the county. We're watching her. But Mrs. Ellis, you need to turn yourself in. Come in, drop the kidnapping charges, let us protect those children through proper channels. Proper channels put her back on the street in 2 hours. Proper channels are how she's gotten away with this for years. So no, detective. I'm not trusting proper channels anymore. Margaret. I hung up. Stood there shaking, my mind racing. Celeste was out. Free. And she knew I'd exposed her. Knew I'd taken everything she'd built and burned it down in front of the entire country. What would she do? Run? Flee the country before trial? Or would she? Margaret. Linda's voice was urgent. She was staring at her laptop screen, her face pale. You need to see this. I looked. Celeste had given another interview. But this time, the mask was slipping. Her eyes were too bright, her smile too sharp. She looked like what she was, a predator who'd been wounded and was ready to bite. "I want my children back," she said, speaking directly to the camera. Directly to me. Margaret Ellis has poisoned them against me with lies and manipulation. She's unstable, dangerous, and I will not rest until Clara and Henry are safe in my arms again. And to Margaret, wherever you're hiding, her smile widened. I'm coming for you. And when I find you, you'll wish you'd never crossed me. It wasn't a threat. It was a promise. Linda slammed the laptop shut. Okay. That's it. We're going full lockdown. Nobody comes in or out. I'm calling my friend Jake, he's former military, lives 10 miles south. He owes me a favor. Linda, I can't ask you to. You're not asking. I'm offering. That woman just threatened you on national television. You think I'm going to sit here and let her walk onto my property? Clara appeared at the top of the stairs, rubbing her eyes. Grandma? Why are you yelling? My father's money can do anything. Buy judges. Intimidate witnesses. Make evidence disappear. You really thought leaking some documents would stop me? She gestured to the people surrounding the house. These are professionals, Margaret. Very expensive professionals who don't ask questions and don't leave witnesses. So I'll ask one more time, send out my children, or everyone in that house dies tonight. I raised my gun, pointed it directly at her chest. Then you better kill me first. Because I'm not giving you those kids. For a moment, we stood there. Grandmother and daughter-in-law. Both of us armed. Both of us ready to die for what we believed in. Except I was fighting for love, and she was fighting for money. That made all the difference. So be it, Celeste said quietly. Then she gestured to her hired guns. Burn it down. The first Molotov cocktail hit the barn. Glass shattered, and flames erupted like a demon unleashed. The horses screamed, that sound horses make when they're terrified, like nothing else in the world. Within seconds, the old wooden structure was an inferno, lighting up the night sky. The horses. Linda shouted from somewhere behind me. Leave them. I yelled back. They'll break out. Focus on the house. But Celeste's people weren't aiming for the house. Not yet. They were destroying everything around it first. Psychological warfare. Making us watch Linda's life burn before they came for ours. A second Molotov hit the equipment shed. Then a third, fourth, fifth, the whole property lighting up like a war zone. Through the flames, I could see Celeste standing there, watching, her face illuminated by the destruction she'd ordered. She looked peaceful. Content. Like this was exactly where she wanted to be. The woman was beyond reasoning. Beyond mercy. Beyond anything resembling human. Margaret. Linda grabbed my arm. We can't stay here. If they're willing to burn us out. The cellar. The kids are in the cellar. The cellar has a tunnel. Old bootlegger escape route from Prohibition. Comes out a quarter-mile south, hidden by trees. I stared at her. Why didn't you mention this before? Didn't think we'd need it. Come on. We ran to the cellar door, bullets suddenly pinging off the house behind us. They'd started shooting. Actually shooting. On American soil, at a grandmother trying to protect her grandchildren. I fired back blindly, not aiming, just trying to make them keep their heads down. Heard someone curse, maybe hit. Good. The cellar door wouldn't open. I pulled harder, panic rising. It's stuck. It's locked. You locked it from this side, remember? Right. I fumbled with the lock, my hands shaking so badly I could barely get the key in. Behind us, more windows shattered. More bullets. The smell of smoke getting stronger as the fires spread. Finally, the lock clicked. I yanked the door open to find Clara and Henry huddled at the bottom of the stairs, both of them screaming, both of them convinced they were about to die. It's okay. It's Grandma. Come on, we have to move. Linda was already at the back of the cellar, pulling aside what looked like a wall of old shelves. Behind it was darkness. A tunnel barely wide enough for an adult. This is insane, I muttered. You got a better idea? Linda shot back. I didn't. I grabbed Clara's hand, then Henry's. We're going on another adventure. Through this tunnel. It's going to be dark and scary, but I need you both to be so brave. Can you do that? They nodded, too terrified to argue. Linda went first with a flashlight, then the kids, then me, pulling the shelves back into place behind us. The tunnel smelled like dirt and decay and things that had been buried too long. I could hear water dripping somewhere, feel cobwebs brushing my face. Behind us, muffled by earth and stone, I heard the house explode. They'd hit it with something bigger than Molotovs. Maybe dynamite. Maybe C4. Whatever it was, it shook the tunnel so violently that dirt rained down on our heads, and I was certain the whole thing would collapse. "Keep moving," Linda shouted. "Don't stop." We crawled through darkness that seemed endless. Clara was crying again. Henry was hyperventilating. My knees were screaming in pain, my lungs burning from smoke and exertion and sheer terror. But we kept moving. Because stopping meant dying. And I wasn't ready to die. Not when Celeste was still breathing. Not when my son was still in a hospital bed. Not when these children still needed protecting. After what felt like hours but was probably only minutes, I saw light ahead. Dim, filtered through leaves, but light. Linda reached it first, pushed aside branches, emerged into the forest south of her property. We collapsed on the ground, gasping, covered in dirt and cobwebs. Behind us, the sky glowed orange. Linda's farm, her home, her life, everything she'd built after her divorce, was burning. All because she tried to help her sister. "I'm so sorry," I whispered. "Don't." Linda's voice was hard. "Don't apologize. That woman did this. Not you. Her. But I brought this to your door. And I opened it. My choice. Now shut up and let me think." We didn't have time to think. Headlights cut through the trees. They'd figured out the tunnel. We're already searching the woods. "Run," Linda said. "I'll hold them off." "No way. I'm not leaving you." "Margaret, listen to me." She grabbed my shoulders, looked me dead in the eyes. "Those kids need you. Your son needs you. I'm 62 with a rebuilt life I can rebuild again. You're a grandmother with everything to lose. So you're going to take those children, you're going to run, and you're going to finish this. Do you understand me?" "Linda." She shoved me toward the trees. "Run." I ran. Grabbed Clara and Henry and ran through the forest, branches tearing at our clothes, roots trying to trip us, the sound of gunfire erupting behind us. I didn't look back. Couldn't look back. Because if I did, I'd see my sister making a stand she couldn't win, and I'd turn around to help her, and then we'd all die. So I ran. Ran until my lungs felt like they'd burst. Ran until the kids couldn't run anymore and I had to carry them. Ran until the forest opened up onto a country road, empty except for one car approaching with its headlights off. I raised my gun, ready to go down fighting. The car stopped. The door opened. Detective Chen stepped out. "Get in," she said. "Now." I didn't question it. Didn't ask how she found us. Just shoved the kids into the back seat and climbed in after them, and Chen was already accelerating before my door was fully closed. "Your sister?" she asked. "She stayed behind. To give us time." Chen's jaw tightened, but she didn't slow down. "We've got officers en route. If she's alive, we'll get her out." If. That word again. The word that meant maybe, possibly, but probably not. "How did you find us?" I asked, my voice hollow. "Tracked Celeste. The ankle monitor showed her leaving the county. We followed, called in backup, but she got to you first." Chen's hands were white-knuckled on the steering wheel. "She's hired professionals. Former military. The kind who work overseas in places where laws don't matter. Bringing them into the States for a hit, that's new. That's desperate. Where are we going?" "Safe house. Federal protection. You're going to give me everything you know, we're going to build an airtight case, and then we're going to bury that woman so deep she never sees daylight again." Clara whimpered from the back seat. I pulled both kids close, felt their small bodies shaking against mine. They'd survived. We'd survived. But at what cost? Behind us, the sky continued to burn. The safe house was a nondescript apartment in a building that could have been anywhere in America. 3 bedrooms, reinforced door, windows that didn't open, and 2 armed federal agents standing guard. Chen got us inside, then disappeared to coordinate with local police about Linda. I sat on the couch with Clara and Henry pressed against me on either side, all of us still covered in dirt and smoke. Neither of them was crying anymore. They'd gone past tears into that numb place where children go when the world becomes too terrible to process.
Is Aunt Linda dead? Clara asked quietly. I don't know, sweetheart. Is our house burned down? I don't know. Is Daddy okay? Yes.
The doctors are taking good care of him.
At least that wasn't a lie.
At least Nathaniel was safe in a hospital with security and medical staff who knew what Celeste had done.
One person in our family was safe.
That had to count for something. One of the agents brought us sandwiches.
None of us ate. He brought blankets.
We just sat there, staring at nothing, too exhausted to move. My phone, no, I still didn't have a phone. Everything I knew about the world was filtered through other people now.
No control. No agency.
Just waiting for someone to tell me if my sister was alive or dead, if my daughter-in-law had escaped or been captured, if my grandchildren would ever feel safe again.
Detective Chen came back 4 hours later. Her face told me everything before she opened her mouth. Linda's alive, she said, and I started crying. Couldn't help it. Just broke down right there on that government-issued couch.
She's in the hospital with gunshot wounds to the shoulder and leg, but she's stable.
Tough lady.
She took down 2 of Celeste's hired guns before they subdued her.
She took down, I couldn't even finish the sentence. My sister.
My sensible, horse-farming sister had shot 2 professional killers.
They're both dead, Chen continued. The third one is in custody. Already talking, trying to cut a deal.
Gave us everything, who hired them, how much they were paid, what the orders were.
She paused.
Celeste told them to kill everyone in the house.
Including the children. No witnesses.
Clara made a small sound. I pulled her closer, covered her ears even though it was too late.
She'd already heard.
Already knew that her mother, the woman who'd given birth to her, nursed her, tucked her in at night, had ordered her death. How do you come back from that? How do you grow up normal after learning your mother is a monster?
Where is she now? I asked. In the wind. Cut off her ankle monitor and disappeared.
We've got roadblocks, airports, trains, everything covered.
But she had a head start, and she's smart. She'll come back. I knew it with absolute certainty.
She can't leave the country without her children.
Too suspicious.
And she still thinks she can win this. Still thinks her father's money will save her.
Chen sat down across from us.
Mrs. Ellis, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. If you see Celeste again, if she comes for you, what will you do?
I met her eyes. Whatever I have to.
That's not an answer.
It's the only answer I have.
You want me to say I'll call police?
Wait for proper channels? Trust the system.
I gestured around the safe house. The system let her out on bail after she tried to murder my son. The system gave her time to hire assassins and burn down my sister's farm.
So no, detective. I'm done trusting the system. If you kill her, then I kill her.
And I'll face whatever consequences come.
But those children will be safe. And my son will live.
And that's all that matters.
Chen studied me for a long moment.
Then she did something I didn't expect. She pulled out her service weapon, checked the magazine, and set it on the coffee table between us. If something happens, she said carefully, if the agents outside are somehow incapacitated, and you're left alone to defend yourself and those children, this weapon will be here.
I can't tell you to use it. But I can't stop you either. She stood up. I'm going to check the perimeter.
The bathroom's down the hall if you need it.
Try to get some sleep. She left. The gun stayed. I stared at it.
Thought about what it represented.
Permission, maybe. Or acknowledgement of reality.
That sometimes the law couldn't protect you fast enough. That sometimes you had to protect yourself. Henry had fallen asleep against my side, exhausted beyond fear. Clara was still awake, her eyes too wide, too old for a 7-year-old.
Grandma, she whispered. If Mommy comes, will you stop her? Yes.
Even if it means hurting her?
I wanted to lie.
Wanted to tell her that violence was never the answer, that grown-ups always found peaceful solutions, that everything would be fine. But I was done lying to protect her innocence. Her innocence was already gone, destroyed by a mother who'd valued money more than her own children.
Even if it means hurting her, I confirmed. Clara nodded slowly. Then, good. Because she's not my mommy anymore. Mommies don't do what she did. Mommies love their kids.
Out of the mouths of babes. This 7-year-old had figured out what I'd taken months to accept. That Celeste had never been a real mother. Had never loved anyone but herself. Had worn motherhood like a costume, something to put on when it served her purposes and discard when it didn't.
You're right, I said quietly. Real mommies love their kids. And real grandmas protect them. No matter what.
She curled up against me, finally allowing herself to sleep. I sat there in the dim safe house lighting, one grandchild on each side, Detective Chen's gun on the table, and my own revolver still in my purse.
Waiting. Because Celeste would come. Maybe not tonight. Maybe not tomorrow. But she'd come.
She'd already lost everything: reputation, freedom, future. She had nothing left except revenge and the desperate hope that if she eliminated the witnesses, she could somehow spin this back in her favor.
And when she came, only one of us would walk away.
I found myself thinking about Nathaniel. My son, lying in a hospital bed, recovering from poison his wife had fed him.
What would he think when he woke up?
When he learned the truth about the woman he'd loved, the mother of his children?
Would he forgive me for what I was about to do?
Or would he see me as a monster too, just a different kind, the kind who kills to protect instead of kills for profit?
Maybe it didn't matter.
Maybe some things were bigger than forgiveness.
Than morality.
Than everything except the primal need to protect your family from predators. The apartment was silent except for the kids breathing and the occasional footsteps of the agents outside.
I let my hand rest on Chen's gun. Felt its weight. Its potential.
My husband had taught me to shoot when we were young. Every woman should know how to protect herself, he'd said.
I'd thought it was old-fashioned. Paranoid.
Never imagined I'd actually need it.
But here I was. 63 years old. A widow. A grandmother. A fugitive.
Sitting in a safe house with a borrowed gun, waiting for my daughter-in-law to come kill us all.
Life takes strange turns. But this was beyond strange. This was war.
And wars don't end with lawyers and trials and proper channels. They end with someone surrendering.
Or someone dying.
The attack came at 3 a.m. I heard it before I saw it, the muffled sounds of a struggle outside, then silence.
Too much silence.
The kind that meant the agents were down. I was on my feet instantly, Chen's gun in one hand, my own revolver in the other.
Clara, Henry, bathroom. Now. Lock the door. Don't come out until I say.
They were awake immediately, terror making them obedient. They ran, and I heard the bathroom lock click just as the apartment door exploded inward.
Not kicked in. Blown.
With actual explosives.
Celeste wasn't playing anymore.
Through the smoke and debris, I saw her silhouette.
Still in dark clothes.
Still moving with that predator's confidence.
But something was different. Her movements were jerky. Desperate.
She was coming apart at the seams. It didn't have to be like this, she screamed, stepping through the ruined doorway.
She had a gun. Of course she had a gun. I offered you a way out. A compromise.
But you had to be the hero. Had to destroy everything.
I raised both weapons. Put the gun down, Celeste. She laughed.
That horrible glass-breaking sound.
Or what? You'll shoot me?
You're a grandmother, Margaret.
You bake cookies and tend gardens. You don't have it in you. Try me.
For a second, we stood there. Mexican standoff in a government safe house at 3 a.m.
Both of us armed.
Both of us beyond reason. Both of us willing to die for what we believed in. Except I had something she didn't. Something that made all the difference.
I had love.
And love made you capable of anything.
Where are my children?
Celeste asked, her voice deceptively calm now.
Safe from you.
Where they'll always be safe from you.
They're mine. I gave birth to them. Raised them. Fed them.
You tried to have them murdered.
I couldn't help it.
The words exploded out.
Your own children. You ordered professionals to kill them because they were witnesses. What kind of mother does that? The kind who understands that sometimes you have to cut your losses. Celeste's mask was gone completely now. The perfect wife, the devoted mother, the elegant lady, all of it stripped away to reveal the monster underneath. They were supposed to be my alibi, my reason for sympathy. But you turned them against me, poisoned them with your small-minded morality. I showed them the truth. The truth. She stepped closer. I stepped back, keeping distance between us, keeping my guns trained on her. The truth is that people like me make the world work. We do what needs to be done. We're not paralyzed by guilt or love or any of those useless emotions that keep people like you poor and powerless. Is that what you tell yourself? To justify murdering 2 innocent men? To justify trying to kill your own husband? They weren't innocent. They were stupid. Too trusting. Too weak.
Nathaniel was going to waste his entire life being a small-town doctor, helping people who couldn't even afford to pay him.
Do you know what kind of future that is? What kind of life? An honest one. A worthless one.
She was shaking now, the gun wavering in her hand. I could have been someone. Could have had everything. But I married a man who thought love was more important than money. Who thought saving lives mattered more than living well. So you decided to kill him and collect the insurance. I decided to take what should have been mine from the beginning. Behind me, I heard the bathroom door crack open slightly. Clara's voice, small and frightened, "Grandma." Celeste's eyes shifted, locked onto that partially open door. And I saw it, the calculation, the decision. She couldn't get to me with both guns trained on her. But maybe, just maybe, she could get past me to the kids. Use them as hostages. As leverage. As shields. Don't, I warned. But she moved anyway. Fast. Faster than I expected. Lunging not at me but around me, toward the bathroom, toward my grandchildren who'd done nothing except be born to the wrong mother. I fired. The sound was deafening in the enclosed space. The bullet caught Celeste in the shoulder, spinning her around, blood spraying across the wall. She screamed, rage more than pain, and raised her own gun. I fired again. Center mass. Just like my husband taught me. Not to wound. Not to warn. To stop the threat. Celeste staggered. Looked down at the red blooming across her chest. Looked back up at me with something like surprise in her cold eyes. You shot me, she said, like she couldn't quite believe it. You tried to kill my family. She laughed. Even dying, even bleeding out on a government safe house floor, she laughed. At least I'll die knowing you're just like me. A killer. Someone who puts a bullet in another human being. You're no better. I'm nothing like you. My voice was steady. Calm. I killed to protect. You killed for money. That's all the difference in the world. She opened her mouth to respond, but blood came out instead of words. She fell to her knees, then to her side, her gun clattering across the floor. I kept both weapons trained on her, even as the life left her eyes. Even as footsteps pounded up the stairs, back up finally, too late to do anything but clean up the mess. Detective Chun burst through the door, assessed the situation in a second. Margaret. She came for the kids. I stopped her. Chun looked at Celeste's body. At the gun still in her hand. At the blown open door and the unconscious agents in the hallway. Self-defense. Clear case. Maybe. Maybe not. But it didn't matter anymore. Celeste was dead. My grandchildren were safe. And Nathaniel would live to see another day. Whatever came next, trials, investigations, consequences, I could face it. Because the war was over. And we'd won. Clara and Henry emerged from the bathroom, saw their mother's body, and Clara just nodded. Like she'd expected it. Like she'd known it would end this way. Is she dead? Henry asked. Yes. Good. Clara took her brother's hand. Can we see Daddy now? The hospital room was quiet except for the steady beep of monitors. Nathaniel lay in the bed, still weak but alive, his eyes clear for the first time in months. The doctors said he'd make a full recovery. The toxins were out of his system. His heart was healing. He'd live. He looked at me, at Clara and Henry sitting on either side of his bed, and tears ran down his face.
Mom, I'm so sorry. I should have listened. Should have seen. Stop. I took his hand. You loved someone who didn't deserve it. That's not a crime. That's just being human. She tried to kill me. My own wife. I know. And you, his voice cracked. You saved us. All of us.
Even after I didn't listen, even after I defended her, you still.
That's what mothers do. What grandmothers do. We protect our families. No matter what.
Clara leaned against her father.
Grandma shot Mommy.
Nathaniel's eyes widened.
Clara. It's okay, Daddy. Mommy was bad.
Grandma made sure she couldn't hurt us anymore.
That's what heroes do.
Out of the mouths of babes.
Again.
Linda appeared in the doorway, wheelchair-bound with her arm in a sling and her leg in a cast, but alive.
Grinning. Family reunion? Nobody invited me. Linda. I jumped up, hugged her carefully. You're okay.
Takes more than a couple of bullets to stop me. Though I'll admit, being shot sucks.
Do not recommend.
She wheeled herself into the room, looked at Nathaniel. You're the son who almost got himself murdered?
Aunt Linda, Nathaniel started. Don't Aunt Linda me. You married a serial killer. Work on your judgment.
Despite everything, he laughed. And hearing my son laugh, really laugh, without fear or pain or confusion, was the most beautiful sound in the world.
Detective Chen arrived an hour later with news. The DA cleared you. Self-defense, no charges.
The hired gun who survived is testifying about everything. Celeste's father is under investigation for conspiracy. Her bank accounts showed connections to the previous husband's deaths.
We've got enough to close all 3 cases. So it's over? It's over. I should have felt relief. Should have felt victory. But all I felt was tired.
Bone-deep exhausted in a way that sleep couldn't fix. Because yes, Celeste was dead and my family was safe. But the cost, the things we'd seen, the things we'd done, the innocence we'd lost, that couldn't be undone.
What about me? I asked. The kidnapping charges? The gun? Chen smiled slightly. What kidnapping?
A grandmother took her grandchildren to safety when she discovered credible evidence that their mother was trying to kill their father.
What gun?
The one you used to defend yourself and 2 minors from an armed intruder who'd already killed 2 federal agents?
That gun. So I'm free. You're free.
Though I'd suggest lying low for a while. The media circus is going to be intense. Grandmother takes down serial killer is exactly the kind of story that goes viral.
She was right. Within days, we were everywhere. News channels. Podcasts. True crime shows. People calling me a hero.
Others saying I was a vigilante who'd taken the law into my own hands. Both sides screaming at each other while I just tried to help my grandchildren process trauma that would take years to unpack.
But we did it together. As a family.
Nathaniel moved back home with me once he was released from the hospital. Clara and Henry had their own rooms. We went to therapy, all of us, individually and together.
Talked about what happened. Cried about it.
Started the slow, painful process of healing. Linda recovered, sold what was left of her farm, and bought a smaller place 10 minutes from my house.
Somebody's got to keep an eye on you, she said. Make sure you don't go shooting any more serial killers. I'm retired from that line of work. Good.
One career as a vigilante grandmother is enough for anyone.
But she said it with a smile. Because we'd survived.
Against all odds, against money and lawyers and hired killers, we'd survived. 6 months later, I stood in my garden, tending the tomatoes I'd planted in the spring. Clara and Henry were inside doing homework. Nathaniel was at work, back to being a doctor, saving lives, doing what he was meant to do. The house smelled like the pot roast I had in the oven, and everything was peaceful.
Normal, almost.
Except I still kept the revolver in my nightstand. Still checked the locks twice before bed. Still woke up sometimes in a cold sweat, seeing Celeste's face, hearing that glass-breaking laugh.
Some scars don't heal. You just learn to live with them. Grandma. Clara came outside, holding a piece of paper. I drew something for you. It was a picture of our family. Nathaniel, Clara, Henry, me, and Linda. All of us holding hands, smiling. Behind us, she'd drawn an angel with dark hair. That's Mommy, Clara said softly. I know she was bad. I know she tried to hurt us. But sometimes I still miss her. The good parts. Before everything went wrong. Is that okay? I knelt down, pulled her close. That's absolutely okay. She was your mother. And it's okay to miss the person you thought she was, even while knowing the truth about who she really was. That's called being human. Do you think she loved us? Even a little? Hardest question in the world. How do you tell a child that their mother probably wasn't capable of real love? That she'd seen them as tools, assets, pawns in a game? I think she loved you the only way she knew how, I said carefully. Which wasn't enough. Wasn't right. But it was all she had. And that's not your fault. You and Henry are perfect. You're loved completely. By me, by your daddy, by Aunt Linda. By everyone who matters. Clara nodded, satisfied with that answer. She ran back inside, and I stood there in my garden, thinking about love and loss and the strange paths life takes us down. I'd never wanted to be a hero. Never wanted headlines or attention or people debating my actions on national television. I just wanted to protect my family. And in the end, that's exactly what I'd done. The cost was high. The scars were deep. But we'd survived. And sometimes, survival is enough. Henry's voice called from inside. Grandma, dinner's ready. I smiled, brushed dirt from my hands, and headed toward the house. Toward the family I'd fought so hard to protect. Toward the life we'd built from the ashes of tragedy. The war was over. Celeste was gone. And we were still standing. In the end, that's all that mattered. Not justice or revenge or who was right and who was wrong. Just family. Just love. Just the simple, profound act of choosing to protect the people who matter most, no matter what it costs you. That's what grandmothers do. What mothers do. What anyone who truly loves does when the monsters come knocking. We stand our ground. We fight. And we win. Because love, real love, the kind that doesn't count the cost, is the most powerful force in the world. Stronger than money. Stronger than evil. Stronger than anything. And in our story, love won. That night, after dinner and homework and bedtime stories, I sat on my porch with a cup of tea. The stars were out, brilliant and endless, and somewhere up there I imagined my husband watching, proud of the woman I'd become. The grandmother who'd faced down a serial killer and won. The phone rang. Linda. You watching the news? No. Should I be? They just aired a special. The grandmother who fought back. Interviews with survivors of abuse, domestic violence experts, people talking about how your story inspired them to leave dangerous situations. That's good, I guess. It is good, Margaret. What you did, it mattered. Not just for your family. For everyone who's ever felt powerless against someone stronger, richer, more connected. You showed them that monsters can be beaten. I thought about that. About all the other families out there, trapped in situations with predators who wore masks of normalcy. Who smiled in public and terrorized in private. Who used money and power and manipulation to control and destroy. If my story helped even one person escape, helped one child be saved, then maybe the nightmare had been worth it. Thanks, Linda. Get some sleep. Tomorrow we're taking the kids to that new ice cream place. My treat. They'd love that. I hung up and sat there a while longer, letting the night settle around me. Peaceful. Safe. Home. The war was over. We'd survived. And tomorrow, we'd start building something new. Something better. Something based on truth and love and the knowledge that we were stronger than we'd ever imagined. That's the thing about crisis. It breaks you down, strips away everything comfortable, forces you to face parts of yourself you never knew existed. But if you survive, if you come through the fire still standing, you discover reserves of strength you never knew you had. I discovered I could kill to protect my family. Could face down hired assassins. Could survive being a fugitive, losing everything, watching my sister get shot, and still keep fighting.
I discovered that love makes you capable of anything. Absolutely anything. And I discovered that sometimes, the quiet grandmother in Walmart jeans is the most dangerous person in the room. Because we've already lost so much. Already survived so much. Already learned that life is fragile and precious and worth fighting for with everything we have. So to anyone out there facing their own monster, whether it's an abusive partner, a manipulative family member, or someone who thinks they can hurt you because you're old or weak or powerless, remember this. You're not powerless. You're not weak. You're a survivor. And survivors don't give up. Don't surrender. Don't stop fighting until the people they love are safe. That's my story. That's my truth. And if it helps even one person find their own strength, then every scar was worth it. Stand your ground. Protect your family. And never ever underestimate a grandmother who has nothing left to lose. Because we're exactly as dangerous as we need to be. And we always win. Thank you for joining me on this journey. If this story touched you, inspired you, or made you think about the people you love and how far you'd go to protect them, please subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications. We have more stories of courage, survival, and the quiet strength that lives in ordinary people facing extraordinary circumstances. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Tell us about the strong women in your life, the mothers, grandmothers, sisters, and friends who've shown you what real courage looks like. Your stories inspire us to keep sharing these tales of triumph over adversity. And remember, you never know what someone is capable of until you threaten what they love most. That quiet person sitting next to you? That unassuming grandmother? That gentle soul who always smiles and never complains? They might just be the hero of their own incredible story. Stay strong. Stay safe. And never stop fighting for the people who matter. Until next time, this is Margaret Ellis, reminding you that love always wins. Always. Subscribe. Share. And keep inspiring others with your courage.